What it do, flight crew? FTC. Flight team stand up! It's February. We grinding by any means necessary. We got Jimmy High Roller, NBA players that score more points than ever. And the reason is here in front of our eyes. Let's shade out.
Last NBA season, there were 775 30-plus point
Turn my volume
performances
all the way
by
up.
individual players. In the 2003-2004 NBA season, through the same amount of games, there were only 368 of these same performances.
Really?
NBA players are getting more buckets than ever before.
Yeah, I've been
In fact,
saying that.
In a 5-year span from 2011 to 2016, there were only 23 players who averaged 25 points per game or more.
Wow.
In the last 5 seasons, the number of players who averaged 25 points per game or more has exploded to 58.
It's the rules.
Steve
Simple
Nash,
as that.
the offensive juggernaut
Steve
with
Nash!
an absurd near 50-40-90 career shooting splits, never averaged even 19 points per game in a season. Not
crazy.
even once in 18 years. And yet, all of these players are currently averaging or have averaged 20-plus points.
There's something going on. That's what I'm saying. Like, look at this, bro. Like, bro, this is gonna be a very disrespectful video. So if you're a fan of like a lot of these players, man, like you might as well just click off, bro. Like when Steve Nash was playing in his era, Fred Valet wouldn't be in the NBA. Dragic will be a bench warmer. Lopez will be a bench warmer, but he'll be in the NBA because he's a big man. This dude wouldn't be in the NBA. He wouldn't be in the NBA. He wouldn't be in the NBA. He wouldn't even be playing basketball. Buddy Hield is all right. He wouldn't be averaging 20. He'll probably be averaging like 10. He'll be like a knockoff Kyle Korver. You know what I'm saying? He wouldn't be in the NBA. Colin Sexton, I guess. He'll be in the NBA. He wouldn't be in the NBA. This dude would be playing overseas. Like, a lot of these players, it's something with the rules going on, bro. They should not be averaging 20 points per game. Like Beasley, like Malik B, who is this dude, bro? Like, this dude looks like he owns like a fire-ass soul food spot somewhere in the South, bro. He doesn't even look like an NBA player, bro. Like,
Per game in a season. In fact, here's some great players from previous eras in the NBA that have never, ever averaged 20-plus points per game for a season in their entire career. Manu Ginobili, Lamar Odom, Rasheed Wallace, John Stockton, Chauncey Billups, Jason Kidd, Bill Russell, and Robert Parrish. Now sure, some of these players weren't considered scorers, but that's kind of the point. Put these players in today's offensive-heavy, fast-paced league, and most of them become all-time bucket getters.
For real.
Over the last few seasons, the NBA has seen an explosion in scoring. From all-time greats sleepwalking their way to 30 points, to average players putting up career numbers on a nightly basis. 15 years ago, if a player averaged 20 points per game, he was virtually
Iverson was
as
there,
an
averaging
all-star,
30,
one of the
hey.
league's most elite scorers. Now, 20 points a night has basically become the expectation for any solid player. Why is this? Of course, there's some obvious variables that stand out immediately. Lack of defensive effort, faster pace, more threes, but something else is going on here, and no one is really talking about it. In 2011, Kevin Durant led the entire NBA in scoring with 27.7 points per game. That season, Durant piled up 29 games with 30-plus points, the most of any player that year. When adjusted to a full season, last year the number of players who had at least 29 30-plus point games was 7. 7 players had more 30-point games last season than a prime KD had in 2011.
That's wild,
It's only been
bro.
a decade since then, and yet players have gotten better, more skilled, more versatile on offense, and getting a bucket has never been so easy. But how and why? Well, last week on the Ringers NBA Show podcast, former NBA player Raja Bell gave great insight as to why we're seeing this offensive outbreak and how exactly this is all happening.
Do you think that NBA defenses have caught up with the tactical revolution of their offenses? Or are we kind of like in a college football spread offense and like there's only so much a defense can do to stop what's happening here?
Yeah, that's exactly where we are. Offense is way ahead of defense. It's just way ahead of it. Like, there's nothing. You asked me the question, that's why I'm on today. Like, what do you do with Brooklyn? There's no answer for that. Like, when guys are that gifted with the ball and they're not going to put you in.
I'm on them papers
predictable
now, you guys.
actions that you can game plan for, and you're just saying, hey, man, you got to be good enough to guard that guy. Well, and the rules are what they are, where you're not going to be able to really get up and touch a guy. And, you know, we used to be able to, I don't mean to sound like an old curmudgeon, I'm not complaining about it.
An
but it
old
gave you an
curmudgeon?
opportunity to kind of be physical with the guy at times.
Yeah.
That's stripped away too. So offense is going to be almost impossible to guard if it's just the best players on the ball in space.
As much as we want to blame defensive efforts or the NBA becoming soft or players chucking up threes, Raja is right. Yes, generally speaking, defense has gotten worse over the last decade, but a much more drastic change revolves around the skill set of NBA players, what is valued on the court, and the worst nightmare for some NBA fans, analytics. The average
Analytics?
NBA player is far more offensively skilled now than they were 20 or even 10 years ago.
True.
15 years ago, there were only a handful of big men in the NBA who could shoot the ball well enough to not look like they were throwing a brick through a window. But now most big guys can shoot the ball well enough to be a threat for
Yeah, they want to be a point guard, bro. That's the problem. Every baby want to play a point guard.
Almost
A
every
dunk ball.
Stop the cap.
That was B-Lou.
Create his own shot was worth building a team around. Now, if you can't take your man ISO and give him a hezzy pull-up, you're getting sent to the G League. Defense isn't necessarily
Facts.
terrible. Offense has just become exponentially good. By its very nature, offense is an endlessly expanding set of skills that are constantly being invented, improved, and explored. Defense, on the other hand, no matter how good it gets, will always be a reactionary task. It is inherently bound to physical and strategical limitations. You can try to stick Kyrie all you want, but eventually you're gonna bite. And when you do, he's gonna make you pay.
Yep.
You can get physical with KD and put a hand up when he shoots. That man's still shooting over you every single time. As the saying goes, great offense beats great defense.
Yep.
These days, even marginally good offensive NBA players can break down great defenders. The days of non-bucket getting stars are in the past, and a new league that is strictly focused on putting the ball in the hoop with every other aspect of the game being an afterthought is now upon us. And this progression follows the normal path of any sport. With every new era, players learn from their predecessors. They take what works and throw out what doesn't. And slowly but surely, things just improve. But a universal jump in offensive production like this is completely unheard of. There's been plenty of innovators and game changers over the years. So why are we seeing this huge change in the game now?
Facts.
Well, not too long ago, this system we call the NBA came across an anomaly. A neo
what?
in the NBA Matrix. A seemingly average man who would accelerate the inevitable evolution of hoops and usher in a new era of basketball. And that man is Joe Ingles.
Ingles of Joe?
No. That anomaly is Steph Curry.
Look at Curry,
Now,
man.
I know this sounds absurd, but it's the cold hard truth we all must come to accept. Before the chef began his conquest of NBA dominance, the league was a game of chess, with each piece having a very particular set of strengths and weaknesses. Basketball was tactical. That's my spot. I know that's my spot.
Ray Allen.
Now how can I get to it? That's my defensive assignment. I can't stop him by myself, so how can we orchestrate the
David
best
Robinson,
and most efficient defense to stop him? But after seeing a 6'2" laser-accurate sniper running around screens like a madman and breaking players down off the dribble just to hoist up 30-foot bombs while winning titles in the process, things changed very quickly.
Hey.
Seemingly overnight, the strategy around the league went from specific tasks all different and unique to specific players to how do I get better at threes and why didn't I think of this sooner? Just 10 years ago, solid offensive players were sentenced to creating shot opportunities in a set offense, painstakingly working the defense until they found their gaps, moving off the ball until an opportunity presented itself. Put some of these players in today's league and give them the fantastic news that they have the green light to pull up wherever and whenever, and you'd quickly see good players turn into stars. And this revolution in offensive play style inadvertently sparked the boom in positionless basketball. Because why limit your big man to going toward down low just to get a contested layup when you can just spend a couple summers teaching him how to shoot the outside shot and become a threat from deep as well as down low? Why
Blake
limit your
Griffin ain't no
point
threat
guard to
from
just
deep.
distributing the ball when he's by far the best shooter on your team? The idea of positionless basketball has a lot more to do with this influx of scoring than we realize. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, most players filled a specific role. Defensive stopper, spot-up shooter, pick-and-roll big, rim protector, playmaking wing, pass-first point guard. Most players in the NBA fit within some sort of mold and played.
What you know about Jermaine O'Neal, yo?
It's
It's real basketball
It
knowledge.
was what they were good at, and it's where they had the most value. But ever since this concept of positionless basketball has taken over in the NBA right around 2015, or when the Golden State Warriors proved this concept to be a winning form of basketball, most good players have taken leaps and bounds outside of their mold. A lot of players in today's NBA who could give you 20 and 7 using a variety of moves would have never given you the same stat line or productivity in previous eras because they would have been placed within their ideal mold. And the opposite could be said about good players in previous eras. For example, take players like Tony Parker, Steve Nash, Baron Davis, Ray Allen,
you know about Baron Davis,
Jermaine O'Neal.
The
list goes on and on. Great players that played very specific roles in the 2000s, but would have been game-changing stat stuffers in today's league.
Jermaine O'Neal be putting up like 30, bro. Y'all don't know who that boy is, bro. Don't be playing with me. I still got his jersey.
On 14.5 shots,
Indiana Pacers edition.
from 3 on 0.9 threes per game. These are good numbers. Not great, but definitely above average. But what if we put a prime Tony Parker in today's NBA? Well, for starters, Parker is shooting...
I ain't gonna lie, Parker will be putting up numbers. Parker was nice.
This man peaked just a decade ago, and look at how much the game has changed in that amount of time. Ain't no way he's shooting less than a single 3 a game on average today. In fact, Parker had 6 seasons where he shot over 35% from 3 and 2 seasons where he shot over 40%. Well, in the middle of his prime, Parker was 152nd league-wide on 3-pointers attempted per game. So if we transplant him into 2021, 152nd in 3-point attempts is 3.5 threes per game.
John
Parker's prime, he was a top 5 scoring point guard in the league for 7 out of 8 seasons. When I think of Tony Parker, I think great player, not necessarily great scorer. But remember, the league was much different 10 years ago. So what does a top 5 scoring point guard look like in today's NBA? Well, Trae Young is averaging 26.6 points per game this season as the league's 4th highest scoring point guard. Last season, Russell Westbrook was the league's 4th highest scoring point guard with 27.2 points per game. And the year before that, it was Kemba Walker with 25.6 points per game. Out of these 4 guards, take a wild guess at who shoots the ball the best. Old boy Tony Parker. But remember, the pace in today's league is much faster than it was in Tony's prime. So if you take prime Tony Parker and put him in the modern NBA, the offense probably revolves around him as the primary ball handler. He's shooting far more threes, he's one of the most efficient scorers running the point, and instead of averaging 18, 6, and 3, he's averaging something like 25, 7, and 4.
I believe it. No, I believe it. Parker was valid, bro. He was nice.
Slightly above average numbers for fans to retroactively judge his value off of, he's now putting up Kyrie Irving type numbers. Same player, different era. Simply put, great players are taking more shots, they have the ball in their hands more often, and they get to make far more executive decisions on the court than ever before. Tune into any NBA game and you can see this happen right in front of your eyes. Instead of having a designated point guard bring the ball up, teams are just giving the ball to the best player, regardless of their skill set, and allowing them to dictate the flow of the game.
Who the hell is that?
Why on earth is Giannis Antetokounmpo bringing the ball up the court?
A duck ball.
Point guards now shooting the ball more than shooting guards are. Why is Miles Turner, Serge Ibaka, and DeAndre Jordan all averaging less rebounds than guards like James Harden, DeJounte Murray, and Josh Hart? Because no longer do players just play within their mold. If your best player is a 7-footer with no outside shooting, oh well, let him bring the ball up and go to work. Best player on the court is a 7-foot sluggish bruiser, oh well. The man can pass the ball like a point guard, so feed him the ball, drop the offensive sets, and let the man work. Best player is a 6-foot, 170-pound point guard. Forget the mid-range, forget the off-ball stuff. He's excellent at running the pick and roll and letting it fly from 30 feet out. So run the pick and roll and let that thing fly. Now, it sounds weird to assume that good players from the past would adjust their game to the modern NBA, or that they would even want to. But this is a well-documented sentiment among former NBA players. A lot of them wishing they played in an era where their usage would have been through the roof and they would have had the ultimate green light. Here's a clip of Steve Nash explaining to Bill Simmons just how much his game would have changed if he had the opportunity to play within the new confines of the game.
We played a style that was thought to be revolutionary at the time, but really we should have doubled down. And Mike said this before, we should have played faster, we should have played smaller, we should have shot way more threes. We were just playing a style that suited our roster, suited our personnel. It was foreshadowing for the future. You know, the way I would have played today would be so different from the way I played. I grew up playing the game where people told you, as a point guard, go 5 for 7, 7 for 10,
right,
and get all your teammates involved, loving the game, feeling empowered. That's the way I approached the game. So I got more aggressive in the fourth quarter because I'm trying to win the game, but I didn't come out like guns blazing, try to, get 20 in the first half, because I didn't think that would do my team any favors. Now we know numerically it just makes way too much sense. And I think there's a balance to be set, but I think I was too conservative shooting the ball. Like, I should have.
Facts, man. Nash, you should have launched it more, bro. You were goated.
Nash is just one of many players from the past that is confident that he would thrive in today's NBA.
Hell yeah, bro. Bro, Nash is putting up easy 28 and 13 every night, bro. Fuck out of here.
Getting a bucket now reigns supreme over any other skill set in the game. Of course,
bro, Nash is playing in the league right now. People like that Roger dude, Valet, Fred Valet, whatever, they wouldn't even be in the league right now, bro.
Spacing, effort, size, and rebounding has only grown larger and larger. Check this out. Can you name the top 10 scorers in the NBA right now? I'm sure most of you can name at least 7 or 8, if not all 10. Now, can you name the top 10 rebounders in the league this season?
What?
Well,
Bradley Beal's got fake stats. He ain't averaging that. Joel Embiid's averaging almost 30?
Because generally speaking, scoring the ball and having a deep bag of moves to get a bucket now get you far more recognition than anything else. Scoring gets you all-star votes, it gets you attention, appreciation. It's a lot more fun to give your opponent a few fancy moves and put up a 3 than work the ball around and get a cohesive offensive system going, and arguably more impactful than anything else, getting a bucket gets you paid. This season, the top 15 three-point shooters across the league make on average $24 million, equivalent to the 48th highest paid player in the NBA, which at the moment is Jaylen Brown. In other words, on average, the top 15 best three-point shooters in the NBA are paid the same as a potential all-NBA talent, which is pretty crazy. For comparison, in the 2011-2012 season, just a decade ago, on average, the top 15 best three-point shooters in the NBA made $7 million, equivalent to just the 92nd highest paid player in the NBA that season, which at the time was Samuel Dalembert. This is all just a long way of saying today's NBA cares way more about shooting than the NBA did in 2012. Jaylen Brown is a borderline superstar. Samuel Dalembert averaged 7 and 7 a game and didn't even start half the time. Getting buckets gets you paid, and in today's NBA, there's no better way to get a bucket than the long ball. And most avid fans already know this. You see it in the numbers, you see it when you watch the games, and yet it's still agonizingly annoying when old heads swear that a good, but not nearly great, player from the 90s and early 2000s would have averaged 30 points per game in today's NBA. You see it all the time on social media. Some mid-age guys swearing that Peja Stojakovic or Michael Redd or Gilbert...
Bro, yes! Thank you for talking about Michael Redd.
But as insane as these guys sound, there's quite a bit of truth to their madness. Take the 3 guys I just named.
Bro, Agent Zero be putting up 40, bro.
For most fans, guys that do not fall in the same tier as the Bradley Beals and Damian Lillards of the world. But what if these guys played in today's league?
Bro, well, first of all, if Bradley Beal's putting up 30 points per game, Mike Redd's averaging 30, Page is averaging 30, bro. Agent Zero averaging 35, bro. Bradley Beal wouldn't even be in the league, bro.
If you adjust for
fake stats out of here,
their shot selection to match shot selection of current NBA players,
Michael Redd, that nigga,
to their modern day counterparts,
Page, all 3 of these guys on screens right here, that
like this. From good numbers
to
first ballot Hall of
Fame.
Fame.
Man, deserve that, bro.
I'm not trying to knock some of today's talent, but if guys like Bojan Bogdanovic and Colin Sexton average 20+ points per game, just imagine what sharpshooting bucket getters like these guys would do in today's ultimate green light era.
Is.
So, what do you get when you have a league that prioritizes shooting and scoring far more than anything else? A league blindsided by an anomaly of a player years ahead of his time, sees a massive influx of players doing their best impersonation of this anomaly, and a league that drops all notions of positions and specific roles in favor of just letting players do what they do best? You get today's NBA. The latest version of a constantly evolving game that has reached its most skilled and productive interpretation ever. Players are doing things that have never been done before. Effort and intensity on the defensive end is at an all-time low, and points seem to be easier and easier to come by every season. Partially because of this lack of defensive effort, but also because offensive bags are deeper now than ever, and every player, from the superstars to the rotational guys, have a full arsenal of moves ready to unleash on their opponent at any moment. Many former, extremely skilled players that have been lost in the shuffle over time would have put up video game numbers in today's league. But instead, they played in an era where only the very best got to eat every night, and the rest of the league was condemned to play within a system that demanded a very specific task of them. And
Ray would be putting up 40.
ISO every other possession, and drop 30 points. So, I'll leave y'all with this.
Iverson.
Remember the days when crazy high-scoring games were a rarity? When a team scoring 130 points in a game was a crazy stat line that usually came from some double overtime thriller? Well, those days are long gone. 130 points is the new 100 points. And
Yeah.
to illustrate just how insanely easy scoring has become for NBA teams, here's a graph showing how many 130-plus point performances NBA teams put up each season dating back to 2000. And it may just blow your mind. Enjoy. And as
That's
always,
what I mean. Coming up right
until
now
next
on the road to Vermont.